Any tempo. Any tempo. Any key, any tempo. Barbara, if I forget the words, you can help me. Imagination is funny. It makes a cloudy day sunny. Makes the bees think of honey, just as I think of you. Imagination is silly. You go around willy-nilly. I need some words. Daisy, what to do? What to do? Have you ever felt a gentle kiss, and then again find it's only your imagination again? Oh, well, imagination is silly. You go around willy-nilly. For example, I go around wanting you, and yet I can't imagine that you could want me to. Have you ever felt a gentle kiss, and then again you find it's only your imagination again? Oh, well, imagination is silly. You go around willy-nilly. For example, I go around wanting you, and yet I can't imagine that you could want me to. And I'll kind of sing sort of at it. Maybe? I love this song.
Maybe I'll play.
Every time we say goodbye, I die a little. Every time we say goodbye, I wonder why a little. Why the gods above me, who should be in the know, think so of me that they'd allow you to go. When you're near, there's such an air of spring about it. I can hear a lark somewhere begin to sing about it. There's no love song finer, but how strange the change from major to minor every time. coined it last week.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw you were doing it, and so I stole it from Napster.
Oh, you were so cute. Great. Did you grab Ramayana?
Think so little of me that they'd allow you to know. When you're near, there's such an air of spring about it. I can hear a lark somewhere begin to sing about it. There's no love song for now, but how strange the change from major to minor. Every time we say goodbye.
Somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Somebody sit in my chair and ruin my sleep and make me aware of being alive. Being alive. Somebody need me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell and give me support for being alive. Being alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Bury my days, but alone is alone, not alone. Somebody guard me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody make me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Bury my days, but alone is alone, Good luck, Harvey.
Any tempo. Any tempo. Any key. Any tempo. Any tempo.
Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. To celebrate Harvey Shane's wonderful life with joyous memories. Let's get in the mood with some musical melodies. Enjoy Harvey's early performance days.
No one to walk with, all by myself. No one to talk with, say I'm happy on the shelf. Oh, it's a fickle age, with flirting all the rage. Here's one guy with self-control, happy inside my cage. I know who I love best, thumbs down on all the rest. My love was given heart and soul, so it can stand the test. No one to walk with, all by myself. No one to talk with. Oh, it's a fickle age, with flirting all the rage. Here's one guy with self-control, happy inside my cage. I know who I love best, thumbs down on all the rest. My love was given heart and soul, so it can stand the test. No one to walk with, all by myself. No one to talk with, say I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. I know for certain the one I love, I'm through with flirting. Oh honey, it's just you that I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, 'cause I'm saving my love for you. I'm like Jack Horner in the corner. I don't go nowhere. Say, what do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Oh yes, believe me. I don't stay out late. I've got no place to go. You know I'm home about 8. Why, it's just me and my radio. I ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love saving my love for you. Oh yes, just saving it all up for you. You know I ain't misbehaving. I'm saving my love for you. Oh yeah. That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. The same old tingle that I feel inside. And then that elevator starts its ride. And down I go, all around I go, like a leaf that's caught in the tide. I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name, and I'm aflame. You know I'm aflame with such a burning desire that only your kiss can put out the fire. So you're the lover I have waited for. You're the mate that fate had me created for. And every time your lips meet mine, down I go, round and round I go, in the spin. Oh, I'm loving the spin I'm in, right under that old black magic called love. I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name, and I'm aflame. You know I'm aflame with such a burning desire that only your kiss can put out the fire. So you're the lover I have waited for. You're the mate that fate had me created for. And every time your lips meet mine, down I go, all around I go, in the spin, I'm in the spin I'm in, right under that old black magic called love. You know that I'm in the spin, and I'm loving the spin I'm in, right under that old black magic called love. Right under that old black magic called love. You're gonna like us. Is this exciting? Oh, we ain't got a barrel of money. Maybe we're ragged and funny, but we'll travel alone, singing that song side by side. Oh, we don't know what's coming tomorrow. Maybe it's trouble and sorrow, but we'll travel a road, sharing a load side along side by side. Oh, we ain't got a barrel of money, maybe we're ragged and funny, but we'll travel alone, singing a song side by side. How do you like that? Don't know what's going to tomorrow, maybe in trouble and sorrow, but we'll travel alone, share along side by side. Through all kinds of weather, oh, what is the sky should fall, just as long as we're together, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. When they all have their quarrels and our end will be the same as we started, just to travel alone, sing a song side by side. Somebody loves me, I wonder who. I wonder who she could be. Somebody loves me, I wish I knew who she could be, worries me. For every girl who passes by, I shout, hey, maybe you were meant to be my loving baby. Somebody loves me, I wonder who. Maybe it's you. Somebody loves me, I wonder who. I wonder who she can be. Somebody loves me, I wish I knew who she could be, worries me. For every girl who passes by, I shout, hey, maybe you were meant to be my loving baby. Somebody loves me, and I wonder who. Maybe it's, maybe it's, maybe it's you.
It's hard to talk after he's been singing. The love of my life for 15 years began with a song. I think I fell for his baritone voice the first time he asked me to sing with him and Stanley Mocked at the old senior center here in Needham. Every morning, Harvey would wake up singing a melody. usually one I knew. He was always amazed at my vast repertoire that just about matched his. I would bring him a cup of coffee and a fat rascal, you'll have those later, and we would do a duet or two, trying new harmonies. In daily conversations, one of us would say something and the other would find a song to go with it. His morning continued with Marge and Jim on NPR, his go-to source for news, and ended the evening with MSNBC. We accentuated the positive, sharing joys, sorrows, accidents, there were several, and recuperations. We eliminated the negative, focusing on one of Harvey's pet phrases, "Slice of life, babe." He had a ready smile and a twinkle in his eyes. We traveled to visit his friends, Bill Stein and Gil Madrid, in Germany and France. My family, the Perkins, in England, and friends in Bemidji, Minnesota. He loved Marks and Spencer t-shirts. He loved spending winters in Florida, making new friends every year while renewing previous friendships that remain, even those from Georgia. Our first trip together was music on the Mississippi. My mother and I were supposed to go, but she decided Harvey should take her place. Naturally, when called upon to sing on board, Harvey obliged. At a tour of a plantation in Natchez, we listened to a trio playing background music, which naturally led to us singing. As you walk around, you'll see some pictures of those times and people. Once I convinced Harvey to join our Young at Heart singers, he became everyone's pride and joy. The first time he arrived for rehearsal in Nahant, he wore his usual spring attire, shorts and button-down shirt with sleeves rolled up. I introduced him to my mom, Millie, Arlene Clayman, and the rest of the group. Arlene's first words were, "Wow, what great-looking legs! If I were younger." My mother's first remarks were, "Put on some lipstick." We know what she was thinking, and wasn't she right? Sometimes when she called, Harvey would answer the phone saying, "Hold on, I'll get Betty." My mother would say, "I can talk to her anytime. I want to talk to you. I have some musical ideas." They would get to work on new numbers for our next gig. Harvey was in awe of my mom. They had a mutual admiration society. He loved jazz, Broadway, and the Great American Songbook. He regretted never learning to play piano, so I taught him. Very quick learner, melody only. He practiced more than I did. Every spring and summer, Harvey would decide how many tomato plants and flowers to grow. The year I bought my condo, we planted grasses, black-eyed Susans, and Russian sage around the edges of the complex. Last year, we had 5 tomato plants, which thrived under his green thumb. I planted 2 this year, as he requested. The chipmunks got most, but I managed to salvage a few. Harvey was always ready to teach the next generation the fine art of gardening. There are photos. Harvey was a student and teacher of history. He loved historic battles, whether won or lost, and the geography of the world. He would watch YouTube air and sea battles late at night. Sometimes after he had read an article or watched a documentary, I was blessed with a mini lecture to further my knowledge of war battles and armies. He would have been a worthy opponent on Jeopardy! Nature was very important to Harvey. Whether setting up bird feeders to watch the birds, squirrels, rabbits, and chipmunks from our kitchen window, or viewing the life cycles of great blue herons, egrets, muscovies, ducks, or alligators at wildlife sanctuaries in Florida, he was all in, appreciating what life had to offer. I did get frustrated when I needed something repaired. Harvey would say, "I'll fix that. Where's my toolbox?" Oh, well, procrastination set in. It would be later, or after dinner, or after my nap, or maybe tomorrow. At that point, I would grab the toolbox and set about making the repair. He would then join me to finish the task. He was very handy once he set his mind to the task. Harvey was always curious about people and their backgrounds. While out for a walk, he would catch people's accents. He surprised many when he correctly guessed their country or state of origin. That's how to make friends. He also learned several phrases in various languages to put smiles on faces. If we passed people speaking German, we would slow down so he could listen and sometimes chat. He also tried to teach me German. I would answer in French. Harvey was a people and cat person. We each had cats in our lives through the years. Early in our relationship, when Harvey lived in West Newton and traveled to Florida, I took care of Cooper, his very feisty cat. 3 years ago, I realized that I missed having a cat around. Harvey wasn't sure it was a great idea since we spend time in Florida. However, one day, Harvey, Chip, my youngest grandson, and I went to the Animal Rescue League. You know what happened. Harvey and Chip fell in love with a tiny orange kitten. Loki became Harvey's sleeping buddy and pal. There are photos. Now, Loki wanders around looking for his pal and facing the reality that I'm it. Recently, I found a poem that Harvey had written. Cats have no utility, so I got one. Cats are not forever. Many things disappear so they can stay on. Cats are good to listen to when they stretch. Cats are good for being patted when you are dying. Anytime I was frustrated, sad, or upset, Harvey had a way of making me smile and laugh. On one of our early dates, he bought me a pewter rectangle which says, "It's never too late to start your life over." He serenaded me with "Our Love Is Here to Stay." He was the sweetest song in my life, and I miss him. Dr. Seuss said, "A life with love will have some thorns, but a life without love will have no roses." We had bouquets of roses while traveling side by side. Every good program has interludes. We will now have an interlude. Hope you enjoy it. It's coming.
Football is a collision sport, played by athletes who are better trained and significantly stronger and faster than those who preceded them, making the job of protecting those athletes from injuries a sometimes daunting challenge. But just as athletic capabilities have improved, so have the protective materials and the manufacturing and testing technologies to better equip those athletes. At Bike, we have a long history of understanding what's necessary to protect athletes during competition. Now, after employing 21st century technology, we are proud to introduce a dynamic new football helmet for all levels. The designers of the new Bike football helmet began their mission with three exceedingly important objectives to master. The first is player protection. Second, proper fit and comfort. And third, to achieve the first two goals with the lightest weight materials possible. The most advanced materials available today were selected for the outer shell and other energy management components. After testing materials and components, a leading helmet specialty manufacturer produces each Bike helmet at its factory in Lexington, Kentucky. Then, the helmet itself is tested under rigorous conditions to ensure the product complies with the industry's performance standards. This helmet is lighter, more comfortable, better ventilated, and provides more playability than any other product in the market. In fact, the Bike helmet represents the most revolutionary innovation in football helmets in the last 25 years. Let's take a look at how this was done by first examining the shell design, the first of 6 key elements of this new helmet. The designers reviewed the Bike brand's extensive history in football helmets and all of the data available on products in the market, including those helmets capable of withstanding numerous impacts. They considered materials used and how to incorporate new materials, processes, scientific and medical knowledge. It may sound simplistic, but our designers started with the shape of the head and designed a helmet to best fit it, as opposed to starting with a helmet and making it fit the head. This is an important distinction, which has resulted in a number of shell design innovations, the first of which is the anthropometric offset. The rear of the helmet's outer shell features the anthropometric offset, which means that the shape of the helmet conforms to the rear of the skull. This improves the fit and adds comfort, while the aerodynamic profile or shell shape creates means of deflection. Energy dispersing ridge. This component adds to the helmet's rigidity while conforming to the contour of the head. Venturi vents. The proper management of generated heat is key to the player's health and performance. Our superior venting system allows air to circulate freely and heat from the player's head to dissipate quickly. At high speed, air is pulled through the helmet, delivering active ventilation. Elongated ear holes and ear flap flexibility. The larger ear holes improve ventilation and make it much easier for players to remove and reposition the helmet, even if they're wearing gloves. The second of the 6 key elements is the skeletal substructure, or the SSS system. The stiff skeletal substructure system effectively supports the shell construction, and it's capable of attenuating numerous impacts. The third element is the EVA liner. The thermoformed EVA liner with vinyl nitrile serves as the inertial cushioning pad and folds into the shell assembly. Its flexibility provides comfort, and it's also easy to clean. The fourth element is the cranial air liner. By adjusting the air-filled liner, each helmet can be custom fitted to accommodate the variety of head sizes and shapes. The fifth key element is the energy management stabilizer. This soft and comfortable front pad protects the nose and forehead and allows easy access for the mounting and removal of the face mask. And lastly, the chin strap. The patent-pending strap and chin cup system is permanently attached to the helmet, yet is easily adjustable for the perfect fit. It's clear in this weight comparison that the Bike helmet is substantially lighter than any of the competitors' products. Without a doubt, the Bike football helmet is lighter, but provides more playability and comfort than any other football helmet in the market. We are proud to introduce the Bike football helmet at a price you can afford. We are proud to introduce the Bike football helmet at a price you can afford.
I'd like to have Stephanie come up.
Hi, everyone. This is bringing back my Toastmasters days. It's been a while. Thanks. I really appreciate everyone coming today or joining us through the YouTube live feed. That's great. My name's Stephanie Shane. I know there's definitely a few people here that haven't met me. I'm Harvey Shane's oldest daughter. My parents actually had 3 girls. I had an older sister named Leanne who died when I was 4. In that way, I was the youngest child at that point. And then when Leanne died, I was an only child. Then when Andrew was born, I became the oldest child. So I've had all 3 positions in the family. My parents were very much affected by the death of my sister Leanne. She was only 6 years old when she died, but my dad talked about her to me only a few days before she died, how fond, how affectionate she was toward me, how she took very good care of me. So she was really with him his entire life up till the last few days. I think that her death might actually have helped my parents kind of spur them on to what might have been their greatest adventure, which was to fly to West Germany in the hope that they would get jobs once they arrived there. And they did. They got jobs as teachers with the Department of Defense dependent schools. After about a month, they both had jobs for the year, which was great. My dad said that the decision to go there was actually made late at night after several bottles of wine. And according to my dad, that was not the only decision made when wine was a key influencer. So this was a little bit of a pattern. But my dad did have, and my mom too, had a very strong sense of adventure, and they had some. For example, one family story is when they drove through the Pyrenees, sort of the Spanish version of the Alps, during the winter break from school. We came close to going over the edge of the road. I was completely oblivious, but my dad said that they were driving, through the hairpin turns, and a truck coming up from below caused my dad to slow down quite a bit. But he still slid and stopped about inches from the edge of the road. So that was a story that definitely stuck with us, and I think with him as well. I don't know how much embellishment there was in that story, but judging from the look of fear on his face, it may not have been much embellishment. When my dad came to Delaware to visit Bob and I, we decided that we're going to go to Atlantic City and do some gambling. We'd never been there. Dad told us he had a system that he had used in the Officers Club in Karlsruhe. So we had an exciting time, but it's too bad that what worked in the Officers Club in Karlsruhe did not work for us in Atlantic City, and the house definitely made back all their money on that visit. My dad did miss a couple of adventures. He didn't like to fly, so there were some trips that he didn't make because of that. And then there was the time my mom, my sister, and I went in Spain into the caves of Altamira to see the Paleolithic cave paintings. Dad wasn't feeling well with a stomach bug, so he didn't join us and stayed in the car. I think he might have regretted that. I have a feeling staying in our old Volkswagen was not as interesting as seeing the inside of those caves. Now, Dad did, of course, have a sense of adventure, but he didn't like to be rushed. So it was a point of pride for him that when he was working, he got into school with only 5 seconds to spare. And if truth be told, maybe not always 5 whole seconds. He typically set up at least 3 reservations to fly home from Europe at the end of the school year. So we never quite knew when he was going to show up, which is very exciting. When he was in college, and this is another one of my favorite stories, he had a geography professor. She was actually a really interesting person who went on to kind of an illustrious career in the U.S. Geological Survey. At one point, I Googled her and forwarded all the information about her, which he thought was fascinating. But one day, my dad was in her class, and he was asking lots of questions. And the professor told him, "You're a thinker, Shane." The next day, however, she had to throw him out of class when he arrived late. So that was maybe very characteristic of him. But I think maybe one of the Dad's closest brushes with the dangers of ignoring the clock probably came in East Berlin. He and my mom had gone to visit a good friend there, and they went with her to a party, or perhaps the party was at her place, but he and my mom headed back hours late to Checkpoint Charlie. The East Germans were not pleased with this at all, and he was pulled aside and interrogated. He's very lucky that they let him go. There was also another little incident about the coat my mom was wearing and whether she had purchased that in East Germany, but they did finally let them leave with a warning if he promised to never be late again if he visited East Berlin again. And that may have actually been the last time that he visited East Berlin. I'm not sure if that was a coincidence. Considering that he hadn't actually gotten permission to be there and didn't have permission to be on the military train into Berlin, it was really a close call, which, again, very characteristic of my dad in close calls. He did love talking to everyone, whether he knew them or not, as Betty said. When my dad took a course in Bologna, Italy one summer, and my sister and I were there as well, we stayed in a high-rise apartment building, although we were on the first floor. And I remember the other Americans in the apartment building would kind of gather outside on the sidewalk calling for Harvey to come out and play with soccer balls or whatever sports equipment they had with them that day. And just like Betty said, Dad would always stop and have long conversations with people anywhere. I think particularly if he thought they might be interesting to talk to, such as some newly arrived Russian immigrants on Lynn Beach one day, he would also always make friends with his seatmates on a plane. One day at the IMAX Theater at the Boston Museum of Science, we were sitting waiting for the show to begin. He heard some paper rustling behind us, and he whipped around and asked the man if he had any candy. And the man did have candy, and he gave my dad some candy. My dad had an unerring radar for sweets. My dad's personality was one that included warmth, cheerfulness, singing in public, which I remember objecting to as a teenager. He looked shocked when I told him he was embarrassing me. I don't think it ever occurred to him that someone could be embarrassed by that. But he never stopped singing. Even when he had lung cancer, which he survived, the cheerfulness and the friendliness took only a short hiatus. The singing in public returned as well, and Dad went on to join singing groups and sing for those in nursing homes with his accompanist and fellow singers. On a warm day, Dad could always be found outside, whether he was running, going for long walks, or just checking his tomatoes, again, as Betty said, and all the other plants in the backyard. Actually, one reason why I knew we were getting a bit closer to the end was that Dad clearly was not going out any longer. Even on nice days, all of his energy was used just getting up and hopefully being able to come downstairs. Outside was just too hard. But despite his health issues, he was absolutely present up until the very last day when he faded, and it was really the last day. A couple of days before he passed away, he was still making friends and having long conversations with the nurses and the doctors, and which slowed down his eating even more. But he was very interested in them, wanted to talk and make connections with other people up to the very end. Betty was by his side unfailingly during these last years of his declining health, helping him, supporting him, feeding him, keeping him happily going and out of long-term care. So Betty, there are no words to thank you for all the care, love, and the cookies that you gave my dad, especially these last challenging years. But I thank you so very much. Thanks, everyone.
Commercials are part of our lives. Please don't mute this one. It's coming right up.
A long time ago, in a workshop far, far away, two architects decided to manufacture and make available quality, inexpensive, attractive wall paneling systems so anyone could bring the warmth and quality of wood into their home. Soon, millions were flocking to the home centers and kitchen designers chanting, "New England Classic, New England Classic, New England Classic." Yes, Obi Kenobi won.
Fatal gig, take 42.
Custom paneling, also known as Judge's panel in the South, dado panel in Europe, and wainscoting in New England, is often thought of as being complicated and expensive. But as we're about to discover, it's just the opposite. This panel system is so easy to install that even Peter here, who's got the intelligence of a sand person, can install it. The raised panel system is designed to look like custom wood paneling. But it's better because you don't have to hawk the X-Wing fighter to buy it. The design possibilities range from contemporary to traditional, partial to full wall coverage. Also, the multiple sizes and finishes make for a flexible custom design. The four finishes available are paintable, oak, maple, and cherry. All available in four widths, 6, 9, 12, and 23 inches, and two heights, 32 and 36 inches. This real wood veneer is laminated to an engineered wood core. What that means is that in hyperdrive, that veneer ain't coming off no matter what.
That was NASA. They've heard that these paneling systems are so durable, they want to install it on the space shuttle. They're talking about the outside of the shuttle.
I hope the Empire doesn't find out about this. Not that it wouldn't look great on the bridge of the Death Star, or going up the stairs. This product is the best thing to hit this planet since plastic, so you won't have to deal with unhappy customers. And with the support you receive from New England Classic, ordering is so simple. It's like
the Force is with you.
Hey, Harvey, how about getting the Force over here and helping me with this panel? The raised panel system is a wall covering system or kit of parts that can enhance any room's decor. It's inexpensive and easy to install. It has the elegance or coziness of beautiful custom wood craftsmanship. Let's see some custom projects that others have already done.
stairway, office, bedroom, bars, dining room, and even Jabba's hut.
Go! Harvey, what are you doing? Hey, don't encourage him.
What, man? He's doing my job.
Okay, let's wrap this up. The New England Classic raised panel system is backed by New England Classic's commitment to you. Here's how easy it is. Your customer sketches the project. That sketch is then faxed to our designers at New England Classic. Within 2 working days, you receive a layout and the materials list. Once approved, the order is placed. Because most inventory is in stock, within 2 weeks, your customer is installing their very own raised panel system. Peter, do you have anything to add?
I installed and finished an entire room in just 8 hours, and you can too. So don't hesitate. Bring the warmth and beauty of this quality wood product into your home. It's simple and affordable.
The Force is with me, Dark Vapor. I will not come to the dark side.
Remember, New England Classic raised panel system is easy to sell.
A long time ago.
In just 8 hours, and you can too. So don't hesitate. Bring the warmth and beauty of this quality wood product into your home. It's simple and affordable.
And now I'd like to ask Andrea and Glenn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, to echo what everyone has said, thank you so much for being here to honor Harvey, whom we all loved so much. I wrote this in my script handwriting, which is the worst of my 3 handwritings, so if I take a moment, it's because I can't read what I actually wrote. I loved listening to him talk. A lot of people know about and have commented on his beautiful singing voice, and it's true. As you heard, he had a lovely, truly lovely singing voice. But given the time of his life wherein I met and knew him, so much of our relationship was built around the talk. Not golf, not sports, or travel, though we both loved the latter. But with his wisdom and learnedness a given, that knowledge emitted in that rich, woody baritone was just a joy to sink into. Unlike a lot of very smart, educated people, especially those steeped in academia, where bloated self-importance is common, Harvey did not present himself as being particularly exceptional. Of course, those here know that is not accurate, as his life and accomplishments are clearly that of a learned, intelligent, and talented human being. It wasn't false humility. I think Harvey was mostly very comfortable with who he was and did not feel inclined to peacock about it. What did set him apart was how much joy he took in other people's wisdom when presented in the guise of learning and sharing ideas. He was absolutely capable of holding and carrying a debate, an argument, and he kind of relished in mixing it up like that. But he deeply respected other people's knowledge and experiences. Mostly, as Steph said, he was interested in other people. Happy to just sit and exchange high to low politics, or vice versa, and as excited by someone else's wisdom as he was by sharing his own. He did not feel the need to make everything about himself. I loved talking with him about anything. I learned something every time, and hope that I can be as generous with my time and mind as he was for his entire life. In a way, I could have with Harvey the kind of intellectual relationship that was not as accessible with my own father. Harvey and I were far more similar than my dad and I when it came to exploring ideas and really pulling them apart to try and understand them, ourselves, and each other better. With Harvey, history, politics, psychology, it was all part of the talk. And of course, were it not for Harvey, and of course Jackie Shane, his wife, there'd be no Andrea, which would be a shame for the world, but especially for me. My relationship with her dad is yet another beautiful gift that he gave me. And I'd like to ask Andrea to come up at this time.
My husband is definitely a foot taller than I am. There we go. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the people who are on YouTube, which is the strangest thing to say, but we know there are people both in the continental United States and overseas who have joined us, and we are very appreciative that they are here. When I sent out the link for this gathering, a friend of mine sent me a note back saying she looked forward to hearing more about my dad's extraordinary life. My dad did indeed have an extraordinary life, and my sister and I, and those that he knew, have had the most extraordinary good fortune to be a part of it. When my dad had surgery for lung cancer 20 plus years ago, for some reason that I do not recall, I was the one that went with him to the hospital the morning of the surgery. I don't believe he'd ever had surgery before, maybe his tonsils out as a kid, and he was freaked. We Shanes are intensely private people, and when we get freaked, we get quiet. And my dad was very quiet. I think everyone here knows how unusual that was. I was madly searching for a topic of conversation and started leafing through his medical chart that was hanging on the bed. I read him his blood pressure, all the usual stuff, and then started reading the notes from his intake, how the patient presented. Pleasant, talkative, and well-nourished. I read that out loud to him and said, "Dad, that is literally your essence. They have captured Harvey Shane down to the atomic level with those 4 words." He got a huge kick out of that particular locution. He agreed completely, and we all referred to it on a regular basis for decades. As has been mentioned, my dad loved talking to people. He was endlessly curious about his fellow humans. If he stepped out to get coffee in the morning and was late coming back, our go-to was not, "He's been in a car accident." It was, "Oh, he's practicing the Portuguese he learned from the cashier at Dunkin' Donuts, having her correct his pronunciation." He would talk to every cab driver and flight attendant and learn about their lives. The day before his death, he learned that one of his nurses had parents from Switzerland, and he was off. He learned where her parents were from, told her he'd been there and how beautiful it was. When she suggested she might want to work there, he assured her she'd have no trouble getting a job, but to get busy learning French or German, whichever her parents could help her with. When she left the room, much later than she had intended, I'm sure, she was beaming, and so was my dad. My dad channeled his love of talking to his fellow humans into a truly rewarding career in education. He felt that his own education in the American public schools, both primary and secondary, had given him a foundation that he never ceased being grateful for. Even more than a half-century after completing his undergraduate degree, he still marveled that it had cost him $50 a semester. My parents made the most extraordinary leap of faith in 1964. They sold their house on Long Island for the tidy sum of $12,000, which was decent money in 1964, packed up their daughters and relocated to Heidelberg, Germany, known then as West Germany. They had it on reasonable authority that they could get jobs working as civilians for the Department of Defense as teachers of military brats. The plan was, if they didn't get jobs, we could go to Spain and live for a year on the proceeds from the house. The principal from the school they were leaving made them the promise that they would have jobs with him when and if they ever returned. We all ended up speaking German to a greater or lesser extent. None of us learned Spanish, and my sister and I grew up without Long Island accents, so I guess we know how things went when they landed in Germany. Our Christmas and summer holidays were spent in Austria, France, the aforementioned Switzerland, Greece, and Yugoslavia. It was far too expensive to fly back to the States, and my parents loved exploring Europe. Much wine was drunk, many cigarettes were smoked, many new foods were tried, and my sister and I were well on our way to never quite being fully American again. Neither were my parents, most especially my dad. My father taught social studies, American history, U.S. government, and world history to junior high and senior high school students. Judging from the notes we received after his death, they were truly changed for the better after being in his classes. I remember visiting one of his classrooms as a kid. He had immense bookshelves of National Geographic magazines, maps all over the walls, and blackboards full of information. I knew that if my dad was teaching it, it was important. My dad was a union man. He joined the teachers' union the moment he got his first teaching job and was a proud and passionate advocate of all things union. As a student and teacher of history, he knew how important they were. He instilled that in me. I am still a member of 2 unions, even though I no longer practice the profession they govern. My first job was stuffing envelopes with union mailings at my parents' dining room for 50 cents an hour. Clearly, I was not being paid union wages, and I fully intend to take that up with the AFT. That's quite a bit on the theme of talkative. I have inherited my dad's love of talking, so I will exercise some discipline and transition to other themes. My father had his fair share of saving the day moments, especially when his daughters came to him with animals in need. When one of my hamsters had babies, one of the newborns got a minute filament of bedding wrapped around its paw, which swelled up enormously and grotesquely. The baby was about the size of my fingertip. Still hairless, with eyes completely shut, I brought it to my dad and demanded that he do something. He sprang into action. The hamster was hustled downstairs onto my dad's enormous stainless steel desk, which became the operating theater. Every light in the vicinity was turned on. He grabbed a blade from his safety razor and sterilized it, quite possibly with Old Spice aftershave, and proceeded to somehow miraculously tease the filament away from the baby's swollen paw and cut it away. The paw returned to its normal size within moments. The hamster was returned to its mama, no worse for wear. I still remember the feeling that my dad had saved this tiny life, transforming himself into an improvisational microsurgeon because his daughter and her hamster needed him to. My dad was totally unknown to him, absolutely hilarious. There are countless times he rendered his wife, his daughters, and later his sons-in-law utterly helpless and weeping with laughter. He was mystified by this. He told us a story about a year ago about forgetting, when he had his house on Long Island, that he had put a pot of oil on the stove to heat so he could make French fries. And when he remembered it and returned to the kitchen, he found the pot aflame on the top of the stove. He grabbed it, ran through the house into the backyard, and flung the flaming oil as hard as he could into a tree and set the tree on fire. He watched the tree burn for a few minutes, and thankfully, since it was summer, try not to laugh, and there was lots of moisture in the leaves. It went out by itself. He never told anyone about it, and just hoped that my mom and the neighbors wouldn't notice the newly half-burned tree in the backyard. When we asked him why flinging the flaming oil into the tree was his go-to remedy, rather than, say, grabbing a pot lid to smother the fire right there in the kitchen, he said with his inimitable calm and deliberate delivery that his way just seemed better. My sister, my husband Glenn, and I were incapacitated with laughter for a good long while after hearing this response. My dad sat watching us, incapacitated with laughter, and said, "What? In his insistent, "Explain this to me" way. When my dad visited Glenn and me in New York City one weekend, we walked him to the Port Authority bus terminal to get his bus back to Boston, and he mentioned that he might want something to nibble on during the ride. We suggested he grab an apple or banana. He looked at us for a long, appraising moment, clearly turning a complicated concept over in his mind, and said very gently, very thoughtfully, and somewhat regretfully, as if breaking some kind of difficult news to us in as delicate a way as possible, and said, "I'm not good with fruit on the bus." That was my dad's very roundabout way of saying, I respect your suggestion for choosing a healthful snack, but I'd rather have a cheese Danish and a cup of coffee, without actually saying that. Instead, it was some sort of regrettable personal difficulty with fruit, but only in a transit-related scenario. His incongruous statements and behaviors are legion, and gave my sister and me fodder for merciless teasing of my dad. He was always vaguely bewildered by these creatures that he had fathered, and was almost always, delighted by us as well. He thought Steph and I were geniuses because we knew how to format a document in Microsoft Word. He seemed to feel as though Steph and I had actually invented the program. We kept telling him that this was something that we had learned and that he too could take a class. I think he was more content to think of us as geniuses. He would torture us every year by announcing about a month before Christmas that this was the year we would be having goose for Christmas. Steph and I would strenuously protest, and each year he was shocked at our level of resistance. He would acquiesce to having turkey, but would say that next year, without fail, it was going to be goose. My dad loved watching old movies, especially with me. He knew how much I loved them too. He loved to read, he loved to learn, he loved to sing, he loved to garden, he loved his students, he loved his daughters. He had an extraordinary life.
We will now have a short musical interlude for your enjoyment. You have to realize that the tech involved has to go from one kind of thing to another. Is that the technical term, thing? Anyway, hope you enjoy this musical bit.
I'm Harvey.
I'm Betty.
I'm Arlene.
And I'm Scott.
And
We are Regards to Broadway.
another opening, another show in Philly, Boston, or Baltimore. A chance for stagecoach to say hello. Another opening of another show.
Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time she'll stay. Maybe this time, for the first time, love won't hurry away.
Just in time, I found you just in time. Before you came, my time was running low.
Tootsie, goodbye. Tootsie, don't cry. The choo-choo train that takes me away from you, no words can tell how sad it makes me.
All I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air, with one enormous chair. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely?
Hooray for Hollywood!
you walked in the joint, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined. Would you like to know what's going on in my mind?
If I were a rich man, diddle, 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 digga, 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 dum. All day long I'd biddy, biddy, bum. If I were a wealthy man, oh,
Summertime, and the living is pleasing. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Couple of swells.
we stop at the best hotels, but we prefer the country far away from the city smells.
Let's call it a day. Listen to a lullaby of
Those were the good old days. I'd like to invite Barbara Brilliant to come up and speak. She and Harvey go way back.
Well, before I give my remarks, I will say that I enjoyed Betty you singing. The minute you walked in the joint, I could tell you were a man. Now, let me tell you why that song was really perfect. Because I was doing a show, and I had the whole cast on stage, and somebody, I think his name was Sumner, brought Betty to see the cast, and she looked at that guy and she said, the minute I walked in the joint, it was Harvey singing. She says, I want to meet that man. And the rest was history. So, yes. Where do you start? How do you separate the present from the past? Those are lyrics from one of the many solos that Harvey sang with basically Broadway. The song, Where Do You Start, is by Marilyn Bergman, of Alan and Marilyn Bergman, who wrote The Way We Were, and it seems so appropriate now. Here are the lyrics. Where do you start? How do you separate the present from the past? How do you deal with all the things you thought that last, that didn't last? With bits of memory scattered here and there, I look around and don't know where to start. There's so many memories that I have with Harvey that I also don't know where to start. From the many solos that Harvey performed in basically Broadway, an ensemble where I was the artistic director, to the variety of romantic and comedic songs, wherever he performed, he was always the highlight of the concert. The accolades for his musical work are endless. When I first met Harvey, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, I didn't know what a treat I was in for. Aside from his melodic baritone voice, his being was music to my ears. He was, as a director, he was always on time. He always knew the music. He always knew the words. He could act and was constantly a considerate, wonderful human being. He could always be counted upon. Being with him was always a pleasure. The list of his solos are endless. He put so much meaning into his work, you might have thought that when he sang a song that it was written for him. I am what I am. I am my own special creation from La Cage aux Folles. That was one of his songs, and he indeed was his own special creation. Or we can do it from the producers, and he can certainly do it, and he did it, and he did it all, and he did it well. Harvey was a mainstay of the group. He stood out for both his singing and his acting, and his character. If there was such a thing as a perfect person, Harvey would be first in line. How many people do you know who possess intelligence, talent, character, and all without an overblown ego? When I moved to Florida and bumped into him and Betty there at Whole Foods in Boca Raton, it was like a ray of sunshine. But he never came to basically Broadway South, where I'm still conducting a Broadway chorus. I wish that he had. His name is Harvey Shane. Shane is translated into beautiful. Shane means beautiful. And that's what he was, a beautiful person. I miss him. Where do you start?
I just have some more remarks to share with you. One of my dad's very good and very much one of his oldest friends, Bill Stein, who is in Germany, sent us some remarks to share. He's in France. Oh, he was in Germany. Now he's in France. I only visited him in Germany. So Bill Stein said, Harvey was the voice. In a crowded restaurant, Harvey would only have to whisper to get the waiter's attention. That's how powerful his voice was. On stage, he voiced Rudolph in The Matchmaker, Jesse Kiplinger in Plaza Suite, Mayor Shin in The Music Man, Daddy Warbucks in Annie, Colonel Pickering in My Fair Lady, and Buffalo Bill in Annie, Get Your Gun. Harvey's voice was used to best effect when he was singing. His burnished baritone was especially memorable when he sang As Time Goes By. Harvey and I were fond of calling one another sidekicks. Well, dear sidekick, I wish you happy trails as you ride off into the sunset. And then I got a couple of nice remarks, a eulogy from both my dad's sister-in-law, Ruth Shane, and also his niece and my cousin, Leslie. So Aunt Ruth said, in the end, it's not the years in a life, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. And in the end, it's not the years in a life, it's the life in the years. To Stephanie and Andrea and all of Harvey's loved ones, my sincerest condolences. And Leslie wrote, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. I will miss Uncle Harvey, his spontaneous calls with his smooth voice. In Harvey's life, I admired his many roles as father, school teacher, singer, and of course, uncle, Leslie Shane. Thank you.
And I also have a couple of things that came to us through the magic of the internet. My friend Marianne Ryan, who is one of my dad's singing partners when he did the circuit in this area, and she said, walking into a room and being greeted by Harvey's smile and warmth was always uplifting. Having the pleasure of singing with your dad brought me so much joy. What a voice, such kindness and wisdom in his words and actions. So glad I got that hug. And from Klaus Bayer, who is hopefully joining us from Germany. Klaus, vielen Dank. Dear Harvey, my old sidekick. Unfortunately, I cannot make it to your memorial, but I guess you can't either. We were in our 20s, you in your noble early 50s, when you introduced us to Nat King Cole, George Gershwin, and Irving Berlin songs with your memorable, silky voice and presence. You stole the attention, and nobody could match the artistry. We witnessed how a voice can conquer hearts and melt hard heads. You became a steady member and friend over several years of theater and musicals in Karlsruhe, who we owe more than we ever admitted. You were the psychological advisor when things derailed in the team, and you injected a necessary dose of maturity at times before flames were ignited, being a group of 100-plus rookies sinking mainly Bill Stein's capital into the ground. We became familiar with managing large volunteer teams and prima donnas of all sexes, and of course at times failed miserably at it. You were the man who stayed in the background and almost unnoticed nudged the self-proclaimed team leaders into the right direction before the crew members started killing each other. But to this day, I remember your advice. When teams start boiling and disintegrating and ego takes the better of me, and how your calm advice would save the day. You were our team coach and never claimed fame for it. It was a pleasure and a privilege crossing your path, and we thank you for the wisdom, the maturity injections, the disarming laughter, and we forgive you the annoyingly silky smooth voice. Farewell, my friend and sidekick. From Klaus and whoever had the same experience.
Good afternoon. I'm going to read some words from my Aunt Janet, who, interestingly, also happens to be my mother Betty's sister, who is joining us from the UK. Dearest Betty, there is a Harvey-sized hole in our lives that can never be filled, but we can pile it high with incidents, songs, conversations, time spent with this lovely and loving man. Then our sorrow will be balanced by our gratitude for his life and the happiness he took with him everywhere he went. It was cruel that his health problems curtailed the activities you both would have liked to pursue. Now we miss him, but he is free. These words say it better than I can. Into the freedom of wind and sunshine we let you go. Into the dance of the stars and the planets we let you go. We miss and love the whole of you, who you were and who will always be to us. Go now, go safely, go laughing, go singing, go running home. All our love, Janet and Neil.
Always remember Harvey's positive outlook. In song, naturally. After this final piece, once I fill the coffee pots, there will be cookies, Harvey's favorite cookies. There's an assortment. And there will be boxes of cookies for people to take at the end. So let's let her rip.
Don't you see, Bloom? Darling Bloom. Glorious Bloom. It's so simple. Step 1, we find the worst play ever written. Step 2, we hire the worst director in town. Step 3, I raise $2 million.
2?
Yes. One for me and one for you. There's a lot of little old ladies out there. Step 4, we hire the worst actors in New York and open on Broadway. And before you can say step 5, we close on Broadway. Take our $2 million and go to Rio.
Rio? Nah, that'd never work.
Oh, ye of little faith. What did Lewis say to Clark when everything looked bleak? What did Sir Edmund say to Tenzing as they struggled towards Everest Peak? What did Washington say to his men as they crossed the Delaware? I'm sure you're well aware.
What'd they say?
We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. Me and you. We can do it. We can do it. We can make our dreams come true. Everything you ever wanted is just waiting to be had. Beautiful girls wearing nothing but pearls, caressing you, and driving you mad. We can do it. This is not the time to shirk. We can do it. You won't rue it. Say goodbye to petty lurk. Hey, producer. Yes, producer. I mean you, sir. Go berserk. We can do it. We can do it. And I know it's gonna work. What do you say, Bloom?
What do I say? Finally a chance to be a Broadway producer. What do I say? Finally a chance to make my dreams come true, sir. What do I say? What do I say? Here's what I say to you, sir. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. That's not me. I'm a loser. I'm a coward. I'm a chicken. Don't you see? When it comes to wooing women, there's a few things that I lack. Beautiful girls wearing nothing but pearls, chasing me, embracing me, I'd have an attack.
Why, you cowardly, wretched, miserable little caterpillar. Don't you ever want to become a butterfly? Don't you want to spread your wings and flap your way to glory? We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. Take a look, I'm not a crook, I'm just a drop the bottom line. Come on, Rio, can't you see, oh, you see Rio, I see Jay. We can do it, I can do it, we can do it, I cannot do it, 'cause I know it's gonna fail. We can do it, I know it's gonna fail.
Glad you could be here to share all these times with us. Thank you. Glad you could be here to share all these times with us. Thank you.